We are so far from the ocean right now, in a country we've never been, and we have just taken the biggest gamble of our lives.
I cannot wait to explain to you all exactly what it is that we've been spending most of our time and energy on over the last 2 years. You're going to lose it.
Stick around.
All right, let's go. SeaPeople is a boater's life all in one place. What they do.
SeaPeople has brought. SeaPeople is. Okay, hold on.
We saw that people needed to find each other. There needed to be better communication.
How do you communicate in a better way than we ever could before with people nearby?
It's so obvious that it's the app that we all need, all boaters need.
We all have this connection to what water brings to your life. And we were like, how can we basically harness that into an app?
And here's Elena Caruso in a bubble bath to explain how.
So, the idea was, take the prehistoric navigation equipment still being used for communication on boats today, drag it into the 21st century, and wrap it all up in a single platform. You see, there's this small adventurous group known as cruisers who sail the world, and an even larger community of 140 million people globally who are active boaters. Basically, they've all been getting by using VHF, AIS, clunky, disparate Facebook and WhatsApp groups, and these dinosaur satellite phones, which, by the way, take a good 20 minutes just to fire up. So whenever you see a satellite phone, I want you to think, shit, there is nothing modern out there for these people to simply connect. It's frankly astonishing it doesn't exist yet. So, somebody needed to fill the gap. The only problem was, what kind of sailor knows how to build a world-class app? Now get lost. I'm Riley. Wait. I'm Elena. This is Riley. And 10 years ago now,
We met in Greece. I worked offshore for many years, got a wild idea to buy a boat without any knowledge of sailing.
he asked me to quit my job and go sailing with him, and started off island hopping for a month, and then I just stayed aboard.
And you made videos on YouTube,
And that turned into a
which
job,
I was
actually.
against.
And eventually he let me post the first YouTube video. It did well. And then after a year, that became our full-time job, and he could quit his job offshore where he was working in Western Australia, and we were free, kind of. Still had to work, but it's fun.
And then we had 2 kids.
It's a very long story. Yeah.
Logan and I have owned a sailing school in New York City. We also started the Young Cruisers Association.
And as a group of sailors around the world, a large group now, like 11,000 of them, that all have taken off, moved on to boats, and they're choosing an alternative path to life. I first met Logan and Caroline here in Hopetown 10, 11 years ago, living on a boat for the last 12 years now. When I had first met them, they had brought up to me that they had this idea for Young Cruisers Association for YCA. I took it on to help, build this community and see what we could do.
I stumbled across the YCA on social media, and I thought it was so cool. I wanted to be a part of it because there was nothing else out there at the time. I followed them and got DM'd And the message was like, hey, Elena, we're looking at a better way that we can all communicate here on the water. Thinking of, you know, building something, maybe you'd like to be an ambassador, ... And I knew straight away, I was like, I just got goosebumps. They are building an app for sure. I was like, we have to hop on a call with them tonight. Riley and I, who even watched our kids, I can't remember, but we sat on the phone for 2 hours in the dark on the netting of our catamaran. And we had a chat and everything was so aligned.
So they had independently come up with the same idea that we had had, and so many other people out there, because as I said before, it's pretty obvious what we need.
Riley and Elena had built the largest pretty much online presence of any sailors ever. And YCA had grown into one of the largest communities of sailors out there. It was pretty obvious, I think, to all of us that if we all came together, we were going to potentially bring more people together than anything's ever brought together in the boating industry.
We had been putting a lot of thought into it, and so had Riley and Elena. The foundation for like what this app would do, that was there. Nobody has a tech background.
One of the things that really hurt Apple was after I left, John Scully got a very serious disease. And that disease, I've seen other people get it too. It's the disease of thinking that a really great idea is 90% of the work.
Everything else with how to build this, where do you go from here, that was all to be found out later.
So we meet in Hopetown, Bahamas, in the Abacos, and we're like together and we're brainstorming still, but we're like, we do have to make this official. It's no longer just this idea, it's okay, now we have to sit down and actually make this happen.
You got two options: go raise a couple $1 million, try to do it with some firm in the States, or go direct to India.
The decision to go to India was an easy decision because it was either go to India and spend 30 to 50 grand, or have this built in the States and spend $500,000.
We were pretty fired up that we could do this ourselves in India.
You know, it's an idea, it's a huge risk, it's tech. Most apps fail. We had a lot to learn from the very beginning.
So our job was the marketing. So Logan and Brian and Caroline, it was up to them to sort of build the thing.
We were all on board with that, Brian, Caroline, and myself, and we pitched it to Riley and Elena, and kind of were like, hey, we think we can build this, and it's not going to cost much.
You know, it also made sense to not spend so much early on and give this India thing a go, because a lot of apps do get built in India and a lot are successful. So
we start working with a small team. It was Logan and myself that were kind of on those meetings, walking us through the different steps of these different features that we wanted to create.
Fast forward 6 months, and we're taking meetings at 4 a.m. and 9 p.m.
A lot of these calls initially were focused entirely around getting them to understand what this life on the water is really like. Just kind of breaking things down.
We didn't speak Hindi, but we also didn't speak code. So I couldn't look at code and be like, oh, that's cool, and that's gonna hold up with 1 million users.
The wireframes.
wireframes.
That was a word that was being bandied about quite frequently. I had no idea what that word meant.
You're handed a screen, and it's pretty, and that's where the buttons you wanted were, and that's the colors you wanted. But you have no idea what's behind that.
We'd had to teach ourselves everything, mostly Logan, Caroline, and Brian. Like, they had stacks of paperwork just to build this app. That's what it took.
Plus, we're trying to do our daily job of running our business in New York, and we have 2 kids at this point. So life is just all over the board, and we're personally just drained.
In the end, as this wasn't up to us, so we just had to trust the process and Logan and Caroline and Brian to sort of get us there.
A year into this app build, we are not sleeping. We're stressed.
It was really, really frustrating because even the basic functions we're not functioning.
We're spending too much money.
We were getting information back from the team that like, yeah, they're working on it. It's all coming together.
Every time we're emailing them, they want more money. Every time that we email them, they need more time.
And there was nothing to show for it.
We're just finding it hard to go on.
It's not like you can see half a boat. There was just lines of code, and I'm not a coder, so.
It was becoming obvious that maybe this was something that was going to take a lot more than 5 sailors that had never, ever built a piece of technology.
When we got version 1 of the app back, it was a really bad day. It didn't look or feel or function anything like we'd hoped and dreamed, and we really wondered if this was it. Like, maybe we can't do this. It wasn't even close, and if it did get close, it was going to take a very long time and a lot more money than we'd already spent.
I felt responsible as the one that was leading this charge and saying, hey, let's not go talk to venture capitalists and angel investors and do this the right way. Let's go to India. Like, I think we can do this and it's going to be fun. It was not fun. And it was also a lot riding on it, especially when you're spending other people's money.
We felt really lost and kind of stuck in the middle of something, a little bit helpless, because we can't yet show anything to our audience and market this thing that wasn't even built yet and had been chewing up so much of our money. We had this boat build that was nearly complete, and we couldn't keep going how we were. So we were ready to pull the plug.
So I heard about the Sailing My Vagabond, like everyone else in the sailing industry, like probably eons ago. You know, their name is plastered all over YouTube. Although, albeit, I was pretty busy building companies for the last 15 years, that I read, you know, science magazines more than I did YouTube. But obviously, you knew about them, and I knew that they were, you know, passionate and had a, you know, growing influence over you know, that community. And then I think I was just really annoyed after being on a boat for 2 years about how there's no technology to help us boaters like have a great experience. And I remember, you know, telling my friends about why we have all these WhatsApp groups, why there must be a better way. And I think at that point, someone said, I heard that these folks were building an app.
So at some point during this like really difficult phase, I got a tweet. And it was from a guy called Jean-Michel.
I was literally sitting on my boat going, maybe I can help them out. And I DM'd Riley on Twitter.
It said something along the lines of, I heard you doing making an app. We'd mentioned it on a video.
Yeah, we made the news public that we were building an app to our audience, just, you know, a throwaway kind of comment. And word had got back to Jean-Michel through the interweb.
And I think he got back to me in like 4.5 minutes or something. And I was like, okay, you don't have to talk now. And he was like, hey, mate.
My bullshit radar is pretty well honed at this point. We get a lot of different emails about stuff. So anyway, Jean-Michel sent me a tweet, and he'd actually guessed at the app that we might be building.
So after more research, we found out he was actually the CTO of Shopify, which is huge.
I think it was mostly Brian came back and he was like, dude, this guy is
the real deal.
Michael Jordan.
We need to jump on a call with him and, you know, let's have a chat.
Jean-Michel was the ex-CTO for Shopify.
Right when we know we need some kind of a CTO or fractional CTO, Riley sends a message and says, I think you should take a look at this guy. He may or may not be the Michael Jordan of technology.
I said, I'll help you take a look at the code that was written in the app. Like, I'd love to see it. You know, you talk about all this stuff, but I don't believe anything until I see it. And I'm happy to look at the source code and just, you know, like give you a hint if you're on the right track or not.
Having him peek behind the curtains and see what we've actually built in all this time, you know, it's an opportunity you can't pass up.
Well, it felt too good to be true, because not only did his intentions seem good by the way he was messaging, he was a sailor, so his head was already in the game. He was a coder, he just ticked all the boxes, and it really did seem too good to be true. So we were like, nah, this can't be, no, how?
We don't know the guy. I mean, Ryan and Elena, they jump in with both feet.
We'd organised for him to come visit us in Indonesia.
I randomly had a board meeting in Cairns, and I pinged Riley and I said, where are you? We should meet, because if I was going to get involved in this, I want to make sure that my partners were in it for real. I had to look them in the eyes and go, does this matter to you?
We were on Calypti
We were sailing on a monohull, so we had to wash our clothes.
with Chuchi,
We had adopted.
a flea-ridden dog.
So we cleaned our clothes, we took Jean-Michel to the nicest hotel, and we had lunch with him, and we got to know him really well over a few days. We even took him shopping to buy gifts for his wife and his daughter.
Yeah.
And at that point, we were sure that he wanted the best for us. His intentions were good, and we could confidently tell the rest of the team what we'd just learned.
We all knew we needed Jean-Michel. It was clear. The question then is, how?
After receiving the source code and the app from the team who would, they'd hired to build it, obviously I was like, okay, where do I start? We have to do a reset. And it's not just a reset on the technical parts, but I think it's a reset on getting this team aligned on what kind of app do we want. Like, they had a vision, like a broad idea of like, we have to build community around boaters. Like, how? Like, the how was very broad. I come in and I said, throw it out, start from scratch, I got you.
One door had closed, but another opened. It was time to head to India and thank the team that brought us this far. Developing an app for tracking across oceans was a monumental challenge. It's no surprise that it really was going to take the Michael Jordan of tech and a new team of skilled developers to pull this off.
We all kind of took a look at where we were at with the app, both design-wise and functionality-wise. We took what he had said to heart.
The idea turned into a business, and things got professional really, really quickly.
It was a pretty clear decision to bring him in as a partner.
When Jean-Michel came into play, it was like we'd all just received a big hug.
There was a lot of excitement, a lot of fear for sure.
Jean-Michel sent out a tweet and immediately just assembled a shit hot team of coders from all over the world, and they just started crunching out 18-hour days, living off oat milk lattes and Dr. Pepper.
And we were
And
receiving
pizza.
updates every day.
Like a full startup, you know what I mean? And so crunching and then delivering on his promise, because he said, I want you to feel what it's like to make it, to have a really, really professional team delivering version after version after version. And every day we were getting updates. It was incredible.
Yeah, the team was brought closer together, and our hopes, it all just seemed to come back to life after that.
We had no time to waste. We had to get at it.
We went from doing 40 hours a week almost to what do we do right now?
So the dynamic completely changed really quickly. So there was the five of us who were vagabonding hippie-ish sailors, and then you've got this corporate tech wizard.
It's step number one. You're gonna have a new build on your phone every day. They're like, what? You can do that? Like damn right we can do that.
The feedback loops are so quick. Hey, do you need something? Boom, 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 it's done and it's implemented, and we see a version and it's just wow, this is happening fast.
I mean, I felt a huge amount of pressure, like I realized I was in the hot seat. I came into this team, they'd been at this for, 2 years.
He was fully in charge of the development of the app.
I tweeted, got some friends together. We started with 2 devs and myself, Fred and Alex. They flew to Ottawa, and at that point, we're coding night and day. Now, while we struggled to get some of the location sharing and tracking nailed, there's a lot of data, and we had to make sure we did that right. So by May, we had all these kinks worked out, and we had a few thousand beta users using the app daily. Now, we worked closely with them. They were passionate users. It energized us up at that point as well. We're working even faster and faster, getting feedback, bug reports, features, and trying to get 2 to 3 builds out to them a week.
Rather than us really kind of dive in and explain to a team member in India, exactly why this needs to be there, we could just say, this is something that we need to have in the app, and he understands. He's a boater. He gets where we're going with this.
Yes, there's been stress, there's been frustration, but we are getting to the product that we had all envisioned in the first place, and that's incredible.
In hindsight, would I have done things differently in the beginning?
We were pinching pennies in the beginning. We didn't want to cut a check for 50 grand.
I want to say no because we might not have ever met Jean-Michel and learned as much as we did, because usually in all paths of life, when things get the hardest, usually you're just about to make it.
They didn't have any mentors who'd done this. Investors and people helping you were, their advice is more valuable than the money often.
That whole process of going to India was a necessary one.
And I think they went through a lot. I think they had to go through that.
Without that experience, we definitely wouldn't be anywhere near where we are right now.
One thing that had been bugging me across this entire journey is I was trying to answer the question, why doesn't this exist already? Why, for example, why doesn't Facebook just make a location service so I could be like, oh, Tom is in Portugal, I'm in Spain, let's catch up, dude. And that's never happened. And I was like, why? And then I was really looking for this question. Then I just randomly stumbled across it in a book called Stolen Focus by Johan Hari. And he answers that specifically with the higher ups from Facebook. So he's pulling quotes out of that. And basically it all boils down to, if you're spending time catching up in real life, you're not scrolling, you're not doom scrolling on these huge platforms.
Getting advertised too.
Exactly, and that impacts their bottom line. So they would prefer for you to not catch up in person. And that was, once I heard that, I was like, oh my God.
So that's the difference. That's what we're trying to do, get people to actually see people.
The app is for any boater on the planet who loves the ocean, loves the water, and wants to get the most out of it. Our core pillars of the app, right? We have location and trip tracking, we have hails, and we have like a social feed to track and see people who are nearby you.
SeaPeople has taken all of those old forms of communication and brought them together in the one beautiful space and modernized it completely. So whether you're a fisherman, a powerboater, a sailor, or you're living on the shoreline, you can now see who's around. You can tap on their boat, you can see their faces, whether they have crew aboard, if they have pets or kids. You can organize a pet date on the beach if you wanted to. And for those living ashore that want to maybe gain experience or put their hand up to be crew, you can do that with a tap of a button, and you can message a sailor in the anchorage. That has never happened before. And if you're waiting for your Prince Charming to sail into port and whisk you away, it's probably a good place to start.
To me, SeaPeople is just all about the interactive map. I've been sailing around the world for the last 10 years, and now when I come into a destination, I can zoom in, which I'm just playing on that type of product or type of platform all the time. But now I'll be able to click on a boat, see who's on board, what they're doing, and even in advance of trips, I can get information about places. So for me, it's so much safer.
For me, as an attempt to bring boating back to where it was when it was all about getting together in real life. And I think that SeaPeople has a real chance of being a tool that brings people together to where they put their phone down and go hang out on a beach, go help somebody fix something on their boat, and have those real human interactions again, which are starting to get lost because we're all so connected to our devices all the time. So here we are at the beginning really of this journey. It's been 2.5 years, and maybe you would call it the end, but it's just the beginning.
We feel we're in a great position to, launch this thing in a massive way.
We're watching all of these people have these beautiful experiences and make new friends in the app. It's doing what we wanted. We're seeing people connect that didn't know each other. Families with children whose kids are now hanging out.
I'm definitely a natural storyteller at heart. I think we all are. And times on the water can be turbulent, no matter what vessel you're on. And being able, for me, to share how many nautical miles I've sailed, the highs and the lows of that trip, with people that share the exact same passions as me, is what I needed.
SeaPeople is referring to anyone that has the sea in their veins, that feels an attachment to the ocean.
Having your friends and family back home with a link that they can see exactly where you are on a map is so valuable.
I needed an app to live my life, and I'm like, these are the best people on the planet who I could pull that off with. So it definitely took some convincing my wife that I was going to get back and start coding again, but I think we're onto something.
Tell me, what's the last thing that you...
Well, I forgot to say that I just feel so lucky to have attracted such incredible humans in my life. Tom, for example, I mean, he's amazing and knows how to rig up good lighting using miscellaneous boat parts and sheets. But no, really, to have found Logan, Caroline, Brian, and Jean-Michel, and all of you guys watching, I mean, I feel just so blessed. So yeah, thank you. Thank you, life, for being beautiful a lot of the time.
Whether you're on land or at sea, you can now download what we've been working on for years. We cannot wait for you to experience it, and we look forward to seeing you out here. SeaPeople app is free. You can find the link in the description box below. Thank you all so much for your unwavering support over the years. It really does mean the world to us.
I got a letter this morning, gonna see you when the sun goes down.